Thank you for joining the XR Home, which is India's first AR/VR focused podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Gulshan Purswani, who is the delivery head of Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions. So Gulshan, really happy to have you on the podcast. So instead of me doing an introduction, why don't you give a little background and context to my listeners, who you are, what are you doing in your role at Robert Bosch?
Hey, thanks a lot, Eddie. Thanks for having me on this podcast. I head the XR solutions along with customer experience solutions at Robert Bosch India. RBEI, as we call it, Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions, is one of the entities of Bosch Group, primarily focusing on providing technology solutions to Bosch and other customers, other large enterprises worldwide. So within this entire picture, my own customer experience and immersive solutions. And I've been with Bosch for around 5.5, 6 years. I have been in the industry for close to 20 years now. So really excited to be here on this call.
Lovely, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Gulshan. So I got into virtual reality in 2015. My background largely lies in the creative industry. I produce content for the advertising agencies, production houses and things like that. In 2015, one of my clients asked me whether I could create virtual reality live experience for him, and that's how I discovered virtual reality. And after that, I started reading about it. Then I got to know more and more about it, and I got to know the potential of what VR and AR could do in the future. And so I'm excited because of that. So how did you get into virtual reality, and what does virtual reality mean to you?
Funny story, actually. I'm also from a similar background. I'm by qualification, I'm actually a finance professional, a chartered accountant, what you call in India. And I have worked on finance, on functional, on technology aspects. So about 2.5, 3 years ago, I got involved in one of the topics which was around VR, right? Or rather, it was an AR topic. I remember HoloLens, the first version which came out. We were doing something on that. And that kind of got me hooked on. I was like, okay, we can do a lot in this stuff. And then for last 2.5, 3 years, it has been the topic which I pursued, and that is the reason why I continue to hold that practice as well with me, because there's a lot of interesting work which we have done, and it's in less than 2.5 years which we have done.
So let's talk about the interesting work, because I'm sure my audience would want to know about the works that you have done, because there is so much that we can do, and possibly what you could do is maybe because you said that you've invested in augmented reality and virtual reality, and that's what you're doing. Maybe you could break down the services and solutions that you provided, done maybe first in AR and then VR.
Sure. So just for the benefit of our audience, right? I mean, let's understand what we are going to discuss about, right? For the purpose of this discussion, we'll use the terms a bit interchangeably in terms of AR, VR, XR, right? XR for me is any technology solutions which allow you to augment a user's experience, be it through a dedicated box which blocks your vision, or through a lens by which you see the world. Yeah, it's a combination of AR and VR technologies. Beyond, and we are really rapidly evolving beyond the traditional AR VR, right? We are getting into wearables, we are getting into haptics, we are getting into audio AR, right? Augmented reality, which is purely audio in nature, right? And all of these together is what XR is to me. If I look at it, I mean, to me, it's more like a tool which I can use to solve complex problem statements for my customers. What do we do rather at RBEI is we are largely focusing on 3 broad categories of XR, right? The first one is XR in manufacturing, where we offer solutions for assembly process, production lines, digital twins, production line maintenance, and so on and so forth. This is one wide category of XR. A second bucket for me is in XR in training, yeah, where we use augmented reality or virtual reality to provide trainings to our associates, to our employees. I have found XR trainings to be really effective because they allow you to build muscle memory very quickly. Yeah, without using too many consumables, is doing the repetitive actions, typically in a production line setup, typically in a field service setup, it is a very useful tool for training, and especially in today's context, right? And a third one is XR in commerce itself, where we enable enterprises to create immersive product experiences, demos, virtual showroom experiences for their end customers. Yeah, and where we really approach it very uniquely is that any of these three verticals, we really work in a platform approach. So every subsequent implementation for me has to be faster and more accurate than the previous one. That's how we evolve the platform. So we are actively working on platformizing each of these topics so we can bring a greater value to our customer. Yeah.
Right. So for my audience, break down what do you mean by platform, and start with training XR, because I guess that's the place which holds most value at this point in time. And globally also, use cases where that's adding huge benefits for business is training. Just recently, I think I was having a conversation with someone who's building training for submarine. Earlier, if you had your people to train submarine, you had to actually take those people into the submarine, and that's what was a very expensive and long drawn affair. Right now, you have the tool, with virtual reality, you can completely build a simulation. So they've managed to save like a huge cost over there. So what do you mean by platform? And start with training. Like, what are the services and solutions that you're building, and how does it help businesses?
First, let's understand what is a platform, right? And what do I mean?
Right.
Imagine this: I have a training where the operator is supposed to pick a product and put it in a certain place. Yeah. Now, this pick and place is an action which he would perform within this training, and similar actions would be required in many other trainings. In a firefighting training, you could have a fire extinguisher equipment to be picked and placed. In a production line training, you could have a component to be picked and placed, and so on. Now, it doesn't make sense to keep doing the same development process, keep performing the same development steps for each and every training project which we have. Yeah. So within Bosch, we have developed quite a few accelerators, a few tools which allow my development team we are actually doing it in days, not in weeks. Because we have defined the individual steps, we have the tools, and it is not just, I gave a very simple example. It is not just that. We create tools and storylines. We create a framework where we know exactly how we want to approach a training problem statement. Therefore, I can have training up and running for you in a matter of days, less than a couple of weeks probably, right? What it does is, there are many benefits of it. One, my deliveries are more consistent. Two, I bring a lot more value to my customer because he doesn't have to pay huge amounts of money and wait for a very, very iterative. Yeah. And three, on my side, I have a multidisciplinary team. So my team actually consists of UX experts. It consists of design thinking experts. It consists of, of course, AR technology experts, and then cloud experts to create the entire solution in a way that it is scalable. We are not talking POCs here. Unfortunately, AR/VR is still a POC-driven space. Enterprises want to do a POC and see how the training works. We are not talking POCs. We are saying if I can train 5 people, I can train 500 people with the same solution. That's how we approach any project, right? So that is what I mean by creating it.
People have this misconception that, it's still in its nascent stage, but that you're saying it's actually adding value and businesses are using it at this point in time. So can you give me an example to my audience, some solutions that you've built in the training space and how it's helped the business?
At Bosch, we have this concept of quality principles, and these are worldwide accepted principles. That means anywhere in any factory of Bosch, if a component falls down while assembly, that component will not be used as part of the production unit. It will be discarded to make sure my quality is top notch. That is how my products come out. And we have not 1, 2, but something like 14, 16 quality principles, right? So we have done these trainings on quality principles. Yeah. And these trainings have been rolled out across locations around Bosch World. And at my last count, there is something like 1,600 trainings which have been delivered this year, I think. It's like a dozen factories where the people are taking 1,500, 1,600 trainings on a continuous basis. And these quality principles have been trained and they have brought in real value. Because in older times, a production line will have to be stopped so that the newbies and the trainees can be given a practice on that. Because production line work is all about muscle memory, yeah, especially on the manual components of it. So old times, you had to stop the production line or have a spare production line set up. You have all these consumables, practice parts you have to work with. All that costs money and time. Only have one or two people running at it. But we have done our trainings in such a way that give it on a VR headset, give it to an associate, and he can be in his corner practicing once. And we don't just stop there. Our trainings are developed in such a way that we have guided modes to first train the associate, then independent modes where he can run without any supervision by the application. There are evaluation modes where the effectiveness of the training is tracked, measured. Yeah. And we really insist, any training project which I take up, we really insist on transference. Transference is the ability to take VR training or AR training and implement it in real world. Yeah. So we really insist on that. And we are doing it for Bosch. We have done similar trainings in global arena as well for other manufacturers, other customers working on production. This is one example. Yeah. A second one, which is very close to me, and this wanted to enable autistic students to travel independently using public transport. Before, the project situation was that government spends a lot of money to take them from their home to the school, provide them special education, and get them back. So these cabs are pretty investments in the government, and it is still creating a sense of dependency with those students. So we took up a project. It was based on a PhD study, and the municipality picked it up. We partnered with them as a joint development. And long story short, at the end of it, a bunch of students on different levels of autism spectrum. Yeah. Again, this is not just PSC. We had experts validating that it works. At the end of it, those kids took a bus from point A to point B. I should have seen the smile on their face. That made a real impact. Those kids came back saying, want to now go to new places, different places. And it's the same kids who had anxiety around strangers, who were uncomfortable alone in a bus. So huge impact created on social inclusion for special students. And that's the impact which XR can create.
So yes, I think XR is that tool which is going to create huge transformation. So it's not just businesses, it's going to touch lives. It's going to transform the world. Once businesses have that other side of them where they look at creating technology which is human first, it'll be a future of abundance. So there's this huge hype going around now because of the metaverse, the digital twin, the spatial web, all the interfaces of computer, mobiles, TVs, phones are all 2D. When we experience a world in 3D. So would you like to kind of break down what digital twin is and how it's going to benefit businesses, and also talk about what your expertise and in the manufacturing space?
Before I get into digital twin, right, I'm a big fan of Ready Player One.
Everybody who gets into virtual reality, I think, starts with there.
Exactly. And with Facebook getting into Horizon, with Metaverse coming in, Metaverse has been around for about 15 years now. I would rather take an easier answer first, right? Digital twin is like the buzzword, right? What is digital twin, right? A digital twin is, let's take a device, right? And a virtual version of the same device, which gives you exact status information, details of this device which is running in the real world. That's what digital twin is, right? That's a simple definition. So why digital twin has to be in 3D? Because the look and feel is really impactful. You can visualize much more complex data on a digital twin. The question which you really need to ask as an enterprise is, what is the significant benefit that I will derive by bringing this device, this tool, this machine to digital twin? Will I still be able to work if this was in 2D instead of digital twin? If the answer is yes and you're not getting significant difference, then you really want to think, do you want to do digital twin?
Exactly.
We have had customers coming to us and say, we want to do digital twin or we want to do VR training. And it's a very common statement I hear. But I suggest a slightly different approach. And that's true for pretty much all our XR solutions. I ask first, define your problem statement. Yeah. The benefits you're expecting and the constraints you have, which block you from achieving the full potential of benefits. And if a digital twin is going to solve those problem statements, remove those constraints, then let us go for digital twin.
So yeah, the metaverse, spatial computing, it sounds exciting, but yeah, we just kind of discovering what the language of this new computing world that we are building. You said that you're also creating solutions in the e-com space. Would you like to talk a little bit about that with a couple of use cases that you have done at Bosch?
In the last 1.5 years, right? I'm only referring to Indian websites, right? You take your Pepperfry, you take your Urban Ladder, if I remember correctly, you take Amazon, you take the Apple website. Literally, everyone has got an AR version or a 3D version of your products, right? And you can use it on your mobile phone. So, augmented reality or 3D experience of your products as part of commerce is here. It's already being done. The tricky bit is it acting as that pivot point where because of AR a customer made a purchase decision, or because of AR a customer made a purchase decision faster. Yeah, those bits I still need to see quantified data. But then what we are doing is there are a couple of complexities in this entire commerce landscape, which to be solved. There are startups working on it. There are enterprises working on it. Example, while we say that we will bring in AR in e-commerce, right? Uh, the realism or the quality of 3D content created for e-commerce is really important, right? If I am trying to purchase a table on online on an online e-commerce app, and if I want to see that table in my real space, how it looks, good. It has to look real. It cannot look cartoonish. It will put me off from my purchase experience. So that is one of the problem statement which we are trying to solve. A second one is how can we deploy an AR experience at scale? Yeah. So it's okay to say, you know what, I'll bring in a 50 or 100 products onto an AR experience. So my customer can see these products in 3D and AR and, they can make a purchase decision. But when we are talking about 15,000 SKUs and when we are talking about 1 million hits a day, that is where the real challenge is, right? The systems will start breaking down. Those are the kind of challenges, the speed at which such experiences can be created. These are problems which I'm trying to solve with augmented reality in commerce. These use cases can be brought to brick and mortar stores. These use cases can be brought to showroom experiences, exhibitions, and virtual demos, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of potential where we create AR experience for end customer and make it high quality.
Would you like to share some examples?
I'm actually working on a solution right now. So it is still early to share the example. Probably in a few months it will be there out in public domain.
Would you like to share some use cases, some samples besides the autism that you built, something that you've built over the years in the AR VR space?
In just-in-time inventory. Just-in-time is a concept where you make very small batches of a product, right, to meet the market demands a bit more agilely rather than working in large batch sizes. The problem is products change very fast. Yeah, I could be assembling an iPhone 10 on one production line, and an hour later I'm expected to assemble an iPhone 10s on the same production line, right? Now 10 and 10s visually they look the same, but there are very small differences between them, right? So a person working on the production line should be able to assemble with the same agility. Yeah. So we are working on one example where we are creating an augmented reality enabled production line for our customers. Yeah. What it means, they could have one product, and that product could have, say, 15 variants. I'm not even talking models. Within the same model, 15 variants. Yeah. And you have, say, 5 supported models of that product. So 15 times 5 is something like 75 assembly line variants, right? So how do you imagine a person can remember precisely how to assemble each of these 75 variants? It's humanly very difficult, and then you'll have errors in assembly or quality issues. So we are working
Right.
on AR-enabled assembly, where augmented reality will help a person to precisely assemble a product. Yeah, and we are talking about a pretty advanced method where you are able to detect the steps, precisely what step is he in. So if there are 20 steps on a particular station, system recognizes that he's on a certain step and he's able to know what is the next part where it goes. And only when it has been placed correctly, system goes green and tells him to pick the next one. Imagine the impact on quality which can get created. Imagine the speed at which you can change production lines and reduce the learning curve of your operators. Yeah, this is something which we are building right now. And again, this more details I can share it probably in a few months' time from now. Watch out for a case study which will come out very soon on this one.
Lovely, super. So, as a company who's vested in creating XR solutions, which are the sectors you are seeing the most traction? Which technology, whether it's augmented reality or virtual reality, where is the more value for businesses at this point in time?
I'm speaking based on the projects which I'm doing, right? Manufacturing, automotive, and within manufacturing and automotive, training and assembly or manufacturing solutions are largely the sectors which are able to adopt it much better. Automotive, if I say, I'm covering the entire domain. So it's automotive manufacturing,
right,
automotive aftermarket. So Bosch itself has a platform called Common Augmented Reality Platform. We call it CAP in-house. So CAP is a platform which is used for automotive aftermarket. So any service station can basically take our CAP platform and use AR authoring to enable their service technicians. And this is entirely non-technical activity. We are talking about end-user authoring kind of activities which are happening in CAP. So that is just one example. So manufacturing, discrete manufacturing is where I have most of my projects. Automotive is another one, the end-to-end of automotive. These are largely the industries which are accepting. There is a huge space of augmented reality and virtual reality in entertainment, in gaming. Geo, for example, is coming out with a Geo Glass sometime this year, and they are basically looking at entertainment as a huge market. Almost each one of my AR VR developers has a personal headset, and they use it for gaming in their free time. So it's there in across industries as well. To your second question, where whether we see more traction on AR or VR, it is not really the technology, whether it's AR, VR, wearable, mobile, but rather the use cases which we are trying to solve, which kind of defines where we are heading or what is the most common one.
There are a lot of enterprises who want to adopt AR VR. Common misconception is that the technology is very expensive. And the second, which I think genuinely is a problem, is the accessibility. Because with all of these, whether it's AR, VR, or MR, acquiring the right hardware is a problem. So do you see that over the years being streamlined here in India?
There's a lot of democratization which is happening around XR devices. I mean, I'm actively working with a few organizations. I'm part of the VR AR Association, right? The India chapter on the India Advisory Board. We are working on building that ecosystem in India, which brings the technology, both software and hardware, into the reach of enterprises. We are working on building that collaborative ecosystem, for example, right? Indian enterprises have always been cost conscious about it, and they find it really difficult to go beyond the POC stage. But that is where our startups also have a challenge, because the startups working at an enterprise scale is something which has been a challenge so far, because while a startup can build a brilliant AR experience or a VR training, how well does that VR training integrate with, say, a learning management system, right? Or a smaller software vendor can develop a brilliant warehouse management system. But what's the fun if it is not able to connect to SAP through ready-made connectors, and if you have to spend 3 months connecting with SAP? So that is where we see challenge in India, for example, right? So we are also actively working on creating an ecosystem where such connectors, such integrations become part of the conversation and solutions are readily scalable. So we are there. It's a journey which the entire ecosystem is going through, and we are actively working as part of developing that ecosystem as well.
How important is building a community over here, and where does the India industry stand? When do you see AR VR being adopted mainstream? Not just the enterprise but across consumers.
Two parts, right? How important is it to build a community, and where do I see AR VR being adopted as by masses, right? Building a community is important, really important. I mean, let's face it. No single entity can solve all the problems, and we collaborate. I mean, in Bosch we have a program called DNA, right? DNA is a startup engagement program which is run by Bosch India, where we engage with startups. So as part of DNA, I'm working with a couple of startups in AR VR space, right? And we are not competing. Our solutions are at times common, at times different. What's important is we need to move from a competitive to a collaborative ecosystem. Accept the fact that no single enterprise can do everything. Yeah. Accept the fact that we need to have a partner ecosystem which we can tap into when required, be it for devices, be it for technology, know-how, come what may, right? So it is really critical to build that collaborative ecosystem, and that is the reason we are spending the time and energy on it. Whether it will reach a mass adoption, that is again anybody's guess. I quoted Geo earlier, right? Geo is really actively working on bringing wearable devices. I just saw the launch of Ajna Lens a couple of days ago. Right. So there are players who are actively working on bringing AR to masses. So it's a matter of those masses seeing value, and rather than I trying to say, okay, this solution will reach mainstream. It's a question which is a use case where masses will see value. And that is when you get a winning use case in the next decade. Who knows? It could be next 5 years for all we know, right? So things are moving faster. Pandemic has really accelerated things. Let's see where we get in the next 5 years' time.
I think everybody is waiting for that winning use case, because as an ecosystem, I think it's not just India. I mean, globally, I think some of the finest players are working on solving the problem of creating like the next computing evolution, and they're working on taking or mobile and computer into one single wearable device. Maybe in another 5 years, possibly, or 10 years, maybe we could be wearing a computer on our head, maybe something as light as this. So I am waiting for that. And you mentioned Ajna Lens, so there are so many players here in India who are working really hard, because there's a huge business opportunity. Because there is a transition. The traditional industry, which was functioning the way it was functioning over the years, sees a huge opportunity. The entire way it functions can be completely transformed. So there's huge economical benefits over there. So for those enterprise who have a wait and watch attitude, what would you tell them?
They can continue watching.
Is it sarcastic in a way that if you continue watching, you're going to be disrupted and you won't be? Is that what you meant? Is that what you're hinting at?
I'll put it this way: more than wait and watch, enterprises are still, like I mentioned earlier, enterprises are still in POC mode. Right? They'll try something and then they'll wait and see, okay, how does it work out? Let's face it: to act steps in AR VR takes investment. Yeah. The HoloLenses which I procured at a king's ransom are worthless today because HL2 came out. All my Oculus Quest and Rift devices are worthless because Quest 2 came out. Right? Pretty much worthless because Neo 2 is coming. Right? So the technology is evolving very fast. The hardware is evolving very fast. It's getting cheaper, it's getting better. But then we get into it, there is a conscious call that there will be some point of time there would be a rework and we would need to adapt rather, right? Which is why I said earlier that I really work agnostic to devices, because we are more focused on capability. Whatever devices come, we will work on them. Now, there are enterprises who are experimenting, who are trying out, and there are ones who are waiting. Those who are waiting and watching, right? Maybe they don't have a problem to solve. They're just there. They'll wait till the problem emerges. Which is why I said, okay, continue watching till you realize that it was not all sarcastic. It is really continue watching until you figure out what you want to solve.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think you put out a valid point. The technology is evolving so rapidly. I mean, you buy something which is, which comes out right now, in a year's time, it chances are that it's going to go redundant, because all like an exponential growth of technology which is happening. In all the spaces, I mean, you said, I mean, HoloLens, you bought HoloLens 2, and then there's something else which is already coming. You bought Quest, and there's Quest 2, which is there. And that's the nature of technology, because I think that globally, some of the finest minds, some of the biggest companies are trying to, rapidly create technology which can give us real world value. So, India, since we are in India, how do you see XR benefiting everyone? Do you see it being a tool to creating an equitable future where it reaches everyone, the education sector, the healthcare? Is XR so transformational?
The two areas which I'm concentrating on, the first two which I mentioned, right? Manufacturing and training. There alone, there is a huge potential. It can really reach masses, and I'm not just sticking to manufacturing. We can identify use cases. We are working with universities to enable students on XR technology so that they can become more employable, which is a very good lead indicator that industry has the appetite to take these days. Right? If I'm talking to universities and we are talking on XR topics at universities, it's becoming a part of curriculum. That means in 2 to 3 years time, these guys are going to get employed, and their industry has a pull, right? So, I mean, India is actually very well positioned because of the volumes of users which we have, right? Probably I wouldn't see everyone putting on a headset and walking around with a headset around on their head, but we definitely see a lot of people already using XR. I mean, my daughter's in second grade, and her textbook has an app coupled with it, and you put that app, and you point the app on the book, and a little heart comes up and it shows how it's beating and all that. But it's there with the masses already. So it's only going to penetrate further within Indian market, and that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at Indian market as well for looking for more opportunities and solve problems.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Gulshan. Thank you for being part of the podcast and sharing your insights. My last question to you, treat it as a thought experiment. Imagine you are sitting in 2031. How do you think the world is going to look like, and how business is going to be transformed with AR, VR, MR?
If I was sitting in 2031, I would definitely have a good high-end XR headset of my own, definitely, right? And at that headset, I'm not going to worry about the internet speeds or the quality of content which is coming in. I'm not going to be worried about buffering. Probably not going to worry about the performance limitations of that headset. Probably do some of my work on it and use it as a personal entertainment device for the rest of the time. I think that's how I would see myself using.
Lovely. Thank you, Gulshan, for being part of the podcast and sharing your insight. Yeah, from my side, yeah, in 2031, I think COVID, like you rightfully mentioned, has been an accelerator of sort for all things which is digital. And I think maybe by 2031, whatever has pushed up, the COVID has pushed us to do, like the remote work, remote healthcare, remote education, that will be done extremely seamlessly. 5G will be converging with AR, VR, MR. Artificial intelligence will be converging with AR, VR, MR, and we'll be having seamless simulations where we might not need to actually travel. You could have meetings virtually with your digital avatars. Your education industry, your brick and mortar could possibly converge into like a virtual school of sorts where you could be sitting with students from anywhere around the world and so on and so forth. So it's an exciting space that we're getting into, and the future is open, and it could be none of that also. But I guess it's nice to be a dreamer and kind of have a goal at that. And I guess most of the companies doing that. They are all aiming to create the metaverse. Something in that line. And I hope that comes through. And I hope businesses understand that there's this huge potential with this technology and start adopting and adapting this. And that note, thank you for being part of the podcast. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you, Gulshan.
Thank you, Eddie. It was a pleasure talking to you.